So the story is so far is that he finally comes after learning 9 months down with Rabbi Krinsky. He and the Mendel Shem Tov Olav Shalom had come to Esbocher in Minnesota, and the Shir was established, and finally he comes to his first Farbrengen in Beis Tammuz, and he's completely taken by this whole Merkish Tichas that Rebbe speaks about, and the Bach walking in the street, not knowing how he's touching, stirring hearts, and how Levi I could be part of all this, but he's not a Lubavitch Bocher, and he will not be admitted. If I could only even join a group that was going. So a week, and this is what he's obsessed with for that whole week, at the end of which he goes into Yechidus. This is his first Yechidus. Huh? How old he would have been, Chaim?
Who?
How old is Moishe fella here? No, I'm too older. He's learning Yitzhak V'das. He's already, he's finished high school considerably, at least a year or two. Chaim's making the cheshbon. I don't know. He's younger than Yeshua. He's younger. They were older, a few years younger. But anyway, could find out. So he says he was in Yechidus. It was a long Yechidus. 7 minutes is a long Yechidus. And it was in Yiddish. He says that was novel. I'm an American boy. I understood Yiddish, but that he doesn't comment. But never could speak to him in English. But he's like, seems to me, as you see the Hemshech HaYechidus, his whole problem was he's not one of the boys. Yes, you are. They was talking him right off the get-go in Yiddish. So first I told Rebbe, like, this is an interesting part of the Yechidus. I told the Rebbe, my parents said, it seemed that they had asked him. Yeah, they'd ask him to present to the Rebbe the question. They wanted to leave Minneapolis and move to New York. The children are there already. I'm living in New York, and my sister was already married. We lived in Brownsville. That's where the Tanya Shir was. So why stay there? The Rebbe said, in Minneapolis, there's only a few Shemri mitzvahs, and therefore they should stay. That was it. They stayed. Then came the moment. The Rebbe lifts up his eyes to me and looks at me and says, what would be if you would join the Bochem going at Merkei Shlichus? I've heard him tell the story many times, and whenever he tells the story, you also may have heard it. Moishe felt that he lives it like it just happened. And the Rebbe continues with a luminous countenance and a smile. Mamish Korim, the oil part of his face was radiating. And he looks at me and says, "Du willst doch fahren, and you want to go." Yeah, he said, just like that. Even though I didn't write a word or half a word about it, the Rebbe felt it, which was obsessing me a whole week. And without even waiting for me to respond, the Rebbe said, therefore, if they're going elsewhere, then wait. If they're first going elsewhere, wait here, and you'll go with them on their journey, follow them. If they're going straight to Minnesota, go ahead, go home, wait for them, and then that's the first stop, then you'll continue with it. So he says, the shluchim, this is so beautiful, the shluchim that went that year that I joined, that came to Minnesota, looks like they went there first. It was labeled Asken Olav Shalom, that's Mendel's father, and of Yosef Rosenfeld, Mendy Rosenfeld's father. The Takyas, it was the second thing that I ever said. They first went to Minneapolis, then to Winnipeg, and they ended in North and South Dakota. He had some brackets, but to point out, he's saying to the interviewer, this was nobody, we were not flying. This was all done by train. And that was his beginning of his real journey becoming a chassid. Goes without saying that it wasn't only the Merkei Shlichus, but it was being in the company of the Chassidic Bocher with Boraskin and Yosef Rosenfeld that obviously had a tremendous impression upon him. You have to appreciate the chiddush of Merkez Shlichus in those days in America in the 50s and the 60s. These guys are kind of come right out of Europe, yet they're American boys. It was so novel. And those with their sensitive hearts were like really, either embarrassed, either very embarrassed, or very inspired or taken by the American shluchim, the bachim that went to these places, planted the seeds of all the future shluchim, in the decades that followed. No one could have imagined, the great effect that they would have all over the world. Friends, have a wonderful day. So the Stavus.